Hey, what? Do it? All right, would it be in after 7? We'll call the the June 26th meeting to order, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is the approval of minutes. You got to read them, Deb?
No.
You did? No minutes.
No.
Okay. So we'll just go right over that. And first order of business is 242-1747, modification request for 42 Best Way.
Mr. Fonzie, you want to come and have a seat up front? Sure. Great. So, Commission will recall issuing an order of conditions for an addition at the rear of the house. Oh, come on. That was partially in the 25-foot no disturb zone and in the no build zone. Ms. DeFonzo's here this evening requesting relief from the mitigation planting required that was required as the commission gave a waiver to those zones. I did a site inspection. The area, the wetland side of the wetland markers, monuments is growing in nicely with jewelweed. And that's sort of the slated area for the proposed plantings. So I'm just trying to get that. So, I don't know if you can see my cursor or, this area between A3 and A11 behind the markers is slated for the planting. I think I provided photos of what things look like in your packets.
Before we start, I'd just like to say that normally we don't grant waivers. If we do grant waivers, we ask for mitigation, as there's some applicants that can attest to that.
Mitigation meaning what, sir?
In other words, if you're going to invade wetlands at some point, we expect you to put some plants in a different spot.
Okay.
And so, under normal circumstances, your project wouldn't have got approved, but because it was an in-law apartment and you were willing to do the mitigation
I see.
so you can continue your project,
Yes.
we allowed it. There's a commissioner he hasn't here tonight that would very, very seldom grants waivers. It's just the way he is, and there's nothing wrong with it, because that's, and when you grant the waiver, you have to have an alternatives analysis, and I don't remember off the top of my head if your, the mitigation area was part of your waiver. In that the case, then we wouldn't have granted it.
May I say something? Is that, or
Yeah.
should I? Once all things were said and done, and I got to look to see what's expected of me, and whenever you build something, the fees are continue on different from what you expected. So because of the strain of having it all ripped up, placed back in, I already got an estimate. I've been waiting 3 weeks for another one. It hasn't come. But I was wondering, because it is so pristine, and Amy was there, and I know you can't say if it was or not, but it's intact, it's pristine, nothing has gone close to it for the building because it was on pretty much an imprint. I guess I'm asking, could it be grandfathered in because it's so pristine? And yeah.
Well, I'll leave it up to the committee,
Yes,
see what
yes,
they have
and
to say.
it's
Joe?
the strain of the ripping up something that's pristine and was approved years ago. So I'm asking, I guess, for the grandfather. Look, please.
It's hard for me to comment outside of the vacuum, in a vacuum without looking at the actual order conditions. But when the plan was approved, the NOI was filed and the order of conditions granted for the addition, there were mitigating measures required to get some of that back because the in-law was getting closer to the area. It's still within the 50 though, right? It met the
Yep.
50. And, but I do remember that we required that.
Could I interject?
Yeah.
They did give up part of their driveway. I mean, they did everything in that location where we're touching. But as far as the actual plants, they put the yellow fence up there, and to be honest, nothing's gone near there. So, and again, I don't know if Amy can speak, but it's still in very good, pristine condition.
So are you talking about the driveway area is right here, this little 12, this swath right there, and the cursor is for like a planting bed,
Yes, that's on the side of,
that little side, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I remember when this application came in, I remember the end of the driveway being given up because it was one of the things we required.
Right.
You know, there was a reason why we wanted the mitigation back, and I hate to say it as much as I want to show compassion, and we can't start taking away from what it was we've been doing for the 25 years that I've sat on the commission, and, you know, my predecessors before me, you know, and that's remaining consistent. And when we approve these projects, make these conditions, and, you know, short of a physical barrier preventing something from actually being built a certain way, we typically expect it to be built according to the plan and according to the order. So, you know, as pristine as it is, if you had a pristine lawn right up to the edge of a pond, you know, one of the worst things you could possibly have is a pristine lawn up to the edge of the pond. Even though it's beautiful, it doesn't mean it's environmentally sound. So the buffer zones serve that purpose. So without having been on site and actually see the impact, I'd be inclined to stick to the order of conditions and the testimony that was made when the permit was granted.
Al?
So what is it you don't want to do?
The strain of ripping up, the strain of the financial part, because of the financial part of the building and the requests, it's, because it's so intact and pristine, there's already bush, everything is there already, sir. So I wondered, because of the strain of the finance part of building, I wondered if this could be grandfathered and to leave what's presently working. And I respect wetlands, I get it.
Yeah. But that's what you agreed to when you came to us for the permit.
Yes, and to be honest, when you're a beginner with building, you're doing the best you can to understand everything you're supposed to do. When the constraints and the stress of the financial part, I was thinking, where could I look to see if something could change? And looking outside, that ripping up something so pristine, so that will be one labor. Putting something back, I think I've already gotten 2,000, and I don't even know if that's ripping it up. I know that's planting it. So what made me wonder, now that I'm a little bit more savvy, and I understand the orders, I do, but the grandfather, I was hopeful to use that as a possibility to forgive my ripping it up and let nature take its course the way it's been. And that 2,000 is not a definitive, it's probably going to be more, because I don't know if it's to rip it up, or if it's just the plantings, but I got a figure just to give me some idea, and when I heard that, I was like, I know it's going to be more.
But that was, I mean, that was all part of the,
But I never
that
knew.
was part of our decision in the first place.
It was.
We accounted for everything you had to do, and we gave you kind of gave you kind of a ground ball approach to this thing.
I don't think the figure of cost, though, came up. That's my strain.
Yeah, consensus, all right, these pictures accurate as to what's currently there?
Yes.
Now, if what's going to be required by the order of conditions is going to demand that all this shrubbery here that's already in place be ripped out and replaced, to me, that seems like a waste. It's already there, why rip it out?
Already there. It's been there since we moved in.
Yeah,
It's
Now,
not just shrubbery, it's what it is. We have, you have ornamental exotic plants there, and you don't have, you know, natural native plants. And
Most
So-
of it jewelweed, which is the native.
invasive.
Well, it's
Oh,
native.
You said jewelweed, I'm sorry, I heard knotweed.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry.
jewelweed, it's jewelweed.
Sure, it
So-
would seem to me that you just, up to the 25-foot line, don't do anything back there.
Well,
Let it grow in, up to
let's
the line.
let's just go in your other, are you finished, Al?
Well, I can, you can go beyond me. If I have a question, I'll request you come back to me if I can.
I am compassionate about your problem. The problem is that this board, as long as I've been on it, has relied on consistency. There's a lot of applicants that are here tonight, or others that we've had, and they've spent thousands of what we require. And they're reluctant to do it too, but based on our consistency, they know what they're gonna get when they get here. Because if we keep changing the rules as we go along, we might have to just go home. And it's awful the way they want it, but I don't, you know, we granted the waiver, and like Joe said, I think it was, the mitigation area was part of the waiver.
It was quid pro quo.
So-
We recognized that what was there for sure. And we recognized that my recollection is the deck was coming down and the patio area was being removed, and the addition was only going to be beyond what they had already had, just in a small area. And in that area is where we required the mitigating measures be performed. So, you know, we didn't say no, and maybe in retrospect, we certainly could have and maybe should have, especially if it was granted in order to get this other buffer zone back, and we didn't get that back. So decisions to be made, well, you know, financial decisions are made as part of any construction project, and that decision on the permit was based on, you know, good faith of granting the waiver and getting these areas replanted with natural, you know, items.
Deb?
I agree with the three of you. In the notes on the as-built plan, it says the mitigation planting needs to consist of sweet pepper bush, red twig oak dogwood, Christmas fern or wood fern between each shrub, and mulch for initial weed control. So just the fact that the jewelweed is there kind of negates any of this, and I kind of think that all of those plants should be planted in that area.
And I guess I don't have the actual planting plan that was
It's-
submitted, but, and I'm not the guy giving you the quote, but it seems like $2,000 is an awful lot of money for what we were expecting to get, too. It seems to be very, very, very high number. And, you know, that shouldn't be our issue. Our issue is, you know, protection of our bylaw and our state act, and be doing that consistently. And I don't see anything to jump right out at me that says that, you know, planting of these few items can't accomplish compliance, and you know, to simply waive it is, boy, it's contrary to what we do.
Well, you know, there seems to be room between the markers and the shrub line.
In some spots, there is,
And, okay, in those spots where it is,
right here,
then they can put these other plantings in.
right.
So
And then
that
just
you
leave
don't-
everything go natural.
And let the rest of it be what it is, and let it go natural.
Exactly. And that's all our intent was, not to rip anything out.
But to go in there and rip what's already there out, and then put back plantings again, I think is a waste of time and money.
Doug, I don't disagree with you. I think that they can comply by complying with the planting note on the plan without ripping out everything, and they can still get it
Not
done.
ripping out anything that's already there.
I think,
If it's up to the
And
line.
behind the
then
markers,
fine.
just stop maintaining, just let it go natural.
Yeah.
And that was the intent.
You know, right now, it's mowed beyond, within the 25 zone, so you stop mowing in there.
I think a clever biologist could get it done for you and get it done nicely.
So we could put the bushes within the bushes that are there?
Yes.
Sure. Within there or in front of them.
And you might have to put it in front of them. You might lose a couple feet of lawn.
And there's an
So
area,
you're gonna lose some lawn, because part of that lawn is within the 25-foot no disturb zone.
But that was a given. That's why the markers were there. So
we took that
if you
into
simply
account.
stop, yeah, that's why, if you simply just plant and stop mowing behind those markers, it won't take long for that to all revert
that
back to
would be
being
the way to
pretty
go.
That's
natural.
what's happening right now. That's what's happening right now.
Yeah, and you won't have to rip out the jewelweed.
So,
You can-
so there's room, this marker is closest to the driveway. There's some room back here for some plantings.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is at the,
That corner.
yeah, corner of the lot, this, south.
Let's look at the
West
driveway
corner.
looking to the left.
This is at the other side, opposite side of the driveway in this corner. So the applicant asked if mowing in through here can continue and these shrubs here be cut back. So,
Is it within the 25-foot zone?
yeah,
Then no.
yes.
No.
Right.
No.
So,
The answer would be no.
right,
So just leave it alone.
Leave it be.
right.
And they could put some of those
Shrubs
Shrubs.
in that
Trees.
area.
in that area.
And then an additional marker could be perhaps placed right about here.
I would agree,
Yep.
to close off that area.
So
But
you-
Right.
So you don't have to rip out anything, it's just you're gonna lose a couple feet of lawn.
which is a violation anyways.
So really, you'd be doing what we asked you to do in the first place anyway.
But as I said, that was our intent.
And
Right.
that was the intent of the commission when we gave the order of conditions for your property. You know, so really, you don't have to go to the expense of ripping all that out, you can just add to it, and you're gonna lose a couple feet of grass here and there.
So it has to be in front? It can't be within
No, you
No.
gotta,
the bulk of it?
yeah.
It has to be behind
whole
the
point of
stakes.
Maintaining that grown-in jewelweed is not to encroach in it. I mean, that's sort of your point, so finding spots like here for a couple shrubs, and then on the other end, in here,
Yeah, we mowed, you can put
and
a
then a
lot
new
there.
marker here, and stop mowing, plant, and, you know, if the commission wants a couple shrubs in front of the markers, in front
I think-
here,
I think there's plenty of room. That corner where she wants to cut grass
Yeah,
through
yeah, here.
and cut the shrubs back.
Yep.
I think she put quite a few, close that area right off and put one more stake up.
Amy, could you come again in
Yeah,
a couple of
absolutely.
weeks? Not now, but when it's time.
yeah. So, so that, yeah, okay, so that's that. So the other question came from the erosion control monitor asking to decrease the frequency of inspections from weekly to perhaps once a month. I don't think that's unreasonable at this point. There's no evidence of,
Well, we're not gonna be doing any tilling there, right? We're not gonna be ripping up and tilling the soil and creating a
No.
disturbance?
right, no,
If
we
we're
have
not,
a
if we're not doing that, if we're just gonna add plantings to what's already there without ripping and tilling, then I would agree with that.
Okay,
But it's all depends what happens on site. If there's a big disturbance, then, you know, it's,
Right.
you know?
right.
So if they can just do some strategic planting without doing any ripping and tilling it up and rototilling,
Okay,
that's no issue.
okay.
So how are we gonna do this? So the modification is denied, but the monitor wants to go monthly. So is that part of the modification?
Well, hold on.
Could I ask a question on that? They're working indoors now, so
What's
I
that?
wondered if that's one of the reasons they're inside, they're not working outside?
Yeah, Amy's everything's backfilled, everything's been loomed and seeded and stable, and not stable yet, but the silt sock's holding it
No,
in.
we have jewelweed markers, strip of lawn, then we have erosion control, and then we have exposed dirt around where activity was.
I
So
think-
it's still,
I think relaxing to once a month is fine.
okay,
But you're not gonna get lawn established there now until the fall.
right.
So the request is actually a modification to the order,
Yep.
but these are two different
Two different questions.
conditions within the order, right?
Right,
So we could, I think, my opinion would be we could successfully modify the condition that deals with monitoring,
yep,
but we would deny the condition that deals with the planting and have them plant accordingly.
okay.
I mean,
So-
that's just That's just my 2 cents here.
Okay, that's right.
I
So the-
agree.
I agree with
So
that.
the commission could move to deny the request that Ms. Stefanzo submitted, and,
We're considering a dual request.
Yeah, we're looking at
Single
it.
modification request with two concerns.
Right,
We're, on
exactly.
aspect number one, we're denying relaxation of planting requirement.
Right.
You must adhere to the
right,
order conditions. On the second aspect is whatever condition number, what environmental
Yeah.
monitoring is, we are in fact relaxing that to once a month or half-inch rain or greater.
yes.
If we
The only
move,
modification to that first request would be that what's already in the ground and growing doesn't have to be ripped out to accommodate the new plant.
That's terrific.
That's the only
And
you'd
modification.
just be adding
And
to
then
it.
plant where there's
I
lawn
don't want
right
to
now.
confuse, I don't think that was ever,
Right.
that was never the requirement to begin with. It was always to leave it there and
If you
supplement
go out
it.
to the site,
We'll
you
just
can
make
Okay.
sure
you
that
can mark the
that's our
spots where you wanted to
understanding.
plant and just mark it
Okay.
up on the record drawing and,
Okay.
you know, that's acceptable.
All right,
We have no
So-
problem with that.
So what we're looking for is, well, we're going to deny the relief of the shrubs,
right,
but we're going to approve the relief on the monitoring.
right.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you.
So we need to circle back on site. Okay.
The next one is 242-1428. Before we get into it too much on this project, which is historic as far as I'm concerned, I personally have done 10 site reviews. I know Jen and Heidi did a dozen or 15, and it's been going, it's been progressing. We've had how many modifications?
1,700.
6, 7?
Oh, that's your address note.
No, do we have that many?
That's a lot.
No. A couple. I think it's a half a dozen, but that's the end of there.
But we're done.
I hope so. Amy's been out there, and there's some stuff that hasn't been
Right.
taken care of. Based on the history of this project, I think we should have a third-party review. If you think that's to review the as-built.
It depends on what would,
Because one time we had the benchmarks were 40 feet.
Well, did
The wall was put up and had to be taken down and moved, right? Did you have to move the
Portion
wall
of it,
from
right?
Mass Highway?
portion of it, I thought.
I'm not sure what you're referring to. What is,
The wall, the great wall of,
no, that's all, everything's finished.
No, it changed
Mass-
from brick to stone.
didn't Mass Highway, didn't you say somebody said that Mass Highway said it was partially on their land?
No.
No.
No, we had some of the stockpile of stone to build the wall.
Okay.
Was in front of the wall, which was considered messy.
Okay.
We just had to move it back while
That's
under
good.
construction. It's all done.
I didn't see you have to build that wall again.
Yes, so would I.
I think a peer review is in order, but if the commission feels that it's not,
what are we questioning that a,
make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be.
so you want a wetland scientist to go through the order of conditions?
Yeah, I
On
mean,
site?
you can see some of the pictures,
Yep.
you know, it's,
Before we dive into the peer review, because that would be extraordinary, my opinion, granted, this was a
well, I'm gonna,
very, very congested site with an awful lot of, under 40B was entitled to waivers from our bylaw, and there was, you know, like you said, through the process of approval and then ultimately process of construction, there were several changes. And, you know, we're at a disadvantage where, you know, where Jen was on top of all of those for the longest time, and
Jen
she's
and
just not-
Heidi.
And, but I think as each issue was debated and addressed and voted, I think we were comfortable with what was being done. Now, what I don't know is that in aggregate, as that's 5 years of construction? 6?
No.
6, 7.
6, 7 years?
7, yeah.
It's been,
You know,
it's been around as long as I started.
You know, what do we
Yeah.
have? I mean, things like Do we have the as-built plan, the drainage all clean, do we have inspection reports?
You do.
The porous pavement, condition of, porosity and sweeping records and vacuuming records, I mean, all those things that
Yeah.
we need to verify at the end of, especially a long drawn-out project, are functioning, built accordingly and functioning still, are important, and then having failed to be 100% satisfied on that aspect, I think we would then question whether we need a peer review or not. But,
May I make a comment? The reason we wanted to come before you and see if there would be any flexibility on the peer review issue was simply that although this has been a struggle to get from beginning to end, we are at the end at this point, and this has been heavily, heavily monitored both by me and by Jen and by Concom staff on a regular basis. We had a number of issues that came up, but we resolved every one of them as they came up. We've completed the as-built plan. Really the only issue on it at this point is the stormwater, and that was inspected by a PE through this entire installation process. The as-built that my firm did found that all the structures are within a couple inches of the plan elevations that they were called for. Amy and I walked Amy through the outfall points on every one of these, and the intention of the infiltrators for the roof system was that they be individually capable of taking the roof flow without discharge off-site. And we looked at, I don't remember the exact number, but 6 or 7 outfall points that connected the manholes, that connected the infiltrators. There's no scouring, there's no evidence of flow. They're functioning as they're supposed to do. And you may remember when Lisa Eggleston did the peer review for this. I mean, we are going back in time now. We had originally proposed the infiltrators to cover up to a 50-year storm, and Lisa ended up bumping them up to, we were up at like 120 or 130-year storm. I mean, it was crazy. But my point is that it's overcapacity and it's actually
it
working.
wasn't crazy, it was,
Well, it was very conservative.
thank you.
And
Better
they're functioning as they were intended to function. So the replication has, Amy and I found 2 buckthorn in one of them that I need to remove that I had overlooked. That's a field thing. There's a no salt zone sign that's missing. That's got to go up. So there's some small details, but
These are
it's-
rental units?
These are what?
These are rental units? Or
These are condos.
Condos, so all the documentation of homeowners association and all that has been submitted?
It's all been submitted. We have signatures.
I haven't seen any of that.
So what?
No,
why
you
don't tell us-
have
what do
sign-offs by every owner.
What are you handing
I
out?
have the affidavits, but I don't have.
Just tell us what you're handing out. We have a 7-day rule, as you know, in the bylaw for new material.
Absolutely. Amy and Patrick had a meeting. They raised some questions, and these are my answers, exactly what you are asking right now.
Okay.
So I sat down with Patrick for an hour to go over the order and the plans. There are several post-construction conditions that I have no documentation for.
Okay.
I mean, none of those conditions were addressed in any of the certifying letters that came with the certificate of compliance request. So we went out to the site just because I needed to, get my eyes on it. And I recommended that they still come to the meeting to see if the commission was going to require a peer review. So at least they would know sooner than later if that was going to be a requirement. With the understanding that post-construction conditions still need to be addressed and documentation provided for the file.
Yeah, and we're perfectly willing to do that. That's not an issue.
And that's what I tried to say. I'm Peter
Yeah,
Hengorani,
that's
I'm the owner.
great.
And that's exactly what I'm trying to,
Right.
they had a talk, and Patrick made a big, long list. And a couple of things are, obviously you've not seen it. This was done 8 years, 9 years ago. The conservation restriction was negotiated between the attorneys of the commission and our attorney, and it was recorded at the registry of deed. And I'll send you all these
Okay,
documents.
That's great, but that should have came with the request for certificate of compliance, not the night of the meeting.
I mean, there are about 30, 40 documents, and that are there, and I have them all. And I dug them out, and when Patrick says, Peter, where are they? I submitted them, 7, 8 years ago or 5 years ago. And obviously, you're not aware, because
Right, well-
I like to sit down with you and walk you through every condition we have met. Or if we have not, then we will.
Yeah, and we'd be happy to let this process take some time until Amy gets up to speed.
I'm sure you will agree that from day one, this has been a complicated project,
Absolutely.
at putting it mildly. Amy's just joined us.
Oh, yeah, no, I know.
So we're gonna rely upon her to tell us if she needs a peer review to assist her, or if she needs time to get up to speed to validate your claims.
Thank you.
That's the way that we typically will run when we have a change in employment. So it's
And
really.
we're not pushing
No, I know, I know.
to move this along
There's
rapidly.
no question you're not.
Yeah.
I get it. I want to
Yeah,
state the
no,
obvious.
we're on board with you.
We have to give our expert a chance to get up to speed on something that you've been working on for 7 years,
8 or 9.
8 years,
think
whatever.
it's more.
Whatever the number of years.
Under this
Maybe 10.
iteration. Under this iteration.
And
For the
admittedly,
3 other prior
and
projects.
It doesn't go
admittedly,
back quite as far
the
as you.
site's maxed out. We phased it and rephased it and rephased it. So she's not going to get up to speed in 1 week.
Right.
So that would be my recommendation, is let Amy tell us, unless there's strong feelings on just going right to a peer review, I don't know.
So what do you envision for peer review? I mean, Lisa's no longer available, who has all the hardcore,
Well, it would be,
deep engineering study. If it's a matter of the record and the intent of the NOI and the order of conditions,
it would be,
I think a peer review could very well bring Jen in as the peer reviewer,
and if,
if she's available to do it, evenings or something.
I don't have any doubt that she'd be the capable person and the obvious choice if she's available to do it. That would be a good thing.
Because even another
Right, because we're still bringing somebody else up to
truly
speed.
autonomous, we have to bring them all up to speed, and, even that person is likely to miss something.
So that's a good suggestion.
I agree.
Well, so we have to find out, so we'll have to inquire if you'll give us, yeah.
Because I think it's expedient for everybody
Yeah.
to maybe go that route.
Well, so too, I actually reached out and put a call into Lisa because I knew she knew everything about this. And she said she'd love to do it, but she'd let her errors and omissions insurance lapse. And so she couldn't do it, and she was having too much fun in Colorado. So.
Yeah.
If we could, it would be nice if we could take some time and meet with Amy and help her get up to speed,
Yeah.
and then see how she
You
feels.
might want to consider, though, you might want to consider escrowing some money and see if we can hire Jen to work with the two of you, because she was the resident expert on this project since the day you brought it in. She's been with us since 2008, so I think that would make things go faster.
I think the time and effort that you would spend, and Amy's very capable, we wouldn't have hired her otherwise, for sure, but the time and effort it would take to bring her up to speed on this important thing, I think with another person aboard assisting that whole process, it's going to be more thorough and faster in the long run.
What do you think?
I
And then, I mean-
agree. I mean, she's got the institutional knowledge.
That's all it comes down to, right? They're both experts, but.
I mean, I can, it will take me a while, though. If you gave me the ball to run with, happy to do it, but
Right.
it's not going to happen very, very fast.
So,
What does the applicant want to do?
I think we're amenable to your suggestion.
it could get done more quickly.
Yeah, I mean, Jen's an obvious, I had not thought of Jen, but she's an obvious candidate. She is, as you say,
And I thought of it right from here. I have no idea if she's interested, but I certainly know
Well-
she hasn't forgotten this project.
no, I'm sure she hasn't.
And she knows how to dive into the record.
So because she doesn't work here anymore, it would be a procurement of services under the bylaw. You would have to escrow some money with the town to pay her for her services. And
Sure.
you
Yeah, it would
get
be
back
the
whatever's
standard
not.
53G process, I presume.
So,
But I think what we'd ask you to do would be to get a quote from her for doing so.
Sure.
I mean,
So we
part of
can-
our fear was that if we went with a
So
large firm
continue,
for peer
continue
review.
for 2 weeks for the purpose of exploring, figuring out what's happening in that respect. Can't be done tonight,
Sure,
you know.
not a chance.
We'll have Amy get in touch with Jen
Sure.
to see what she wants.
We'll give her the scope of work, you know, we'll give her what the scope of work is, and she can tell us how many
She'll-
hours that's gonna be, and
She'll
then,
know what we want, so.
then it's just a question of bookkeeping, you know.
Right.
Escrow the money, the services, the scope of work is agreed to. You pick a date and you sit down, you get it going, you go out to the site, whatever it takes to get it done, and then come back.
And maybe the thing to do would be to sit down with Jen and Amy jointly, and, because ultimately Amy's going to have to give her green light to whatever Jen
Yeah.
suggests, so.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Okay.
so,
Wait, that's
yeah,
all.
but Ms. Jennison.
Deb, any questions?
No questions.
No question, let's continue it and
Okay.
go,
The only question,
That was a motion. Second.
Sounds like there's discussion.
I'm reading your letter, Peter, about this, and I just want to let you know that I am not opposed to getting your project approved, finished. I would be very supportive of that happening, because you've been here a long time.
You worked very
So-
hard, Louis and Joe. Thank you for making it happen.
Yeah, I just want to make sure
Long hours,
everything's
hundreds of hours.
right, consistent, and when we all walk away, we all walk away happy and content. I'm not opposed, I never have been opposed. You know I've gone,
No, you've been great, Lou.
I'm
And
trying,
I appreciate that.
I've tried, and
And Jen's been with us for
Jen and
the
Heidi
last
and
couple buildings, so
the
she's.
commission as a
she's
whole,
out
and
weekly.
you've come for modifications, and let's just keep this project going, and it's not like we've opposed you all along, right along. but,
Thanks for your
we've
time
approved
and
numerous
Joe,
modifications.
two of you.
So,
And
on
Albert
that
too,
note,
you know.
we have so we're going to continue for 2 weeks. We got a motion and a second.
And I second.
I have a procedural COC question for you. Do you have any time frame that you must act once the submission is in? Not to
COC
my
request?
knowledge. Yeah,
No.
it's not like an
Because it's not
NOI.
subject to a public hearing where an order of conditions must be issued within 21 days.
Right,
It's not the
right.
case on this.
And you don't have to act in a certain period of time, so we can go through this process.
on your thoughts on the issue. If you sit here and say, no, I don't want to continue this, I want an answer now.
Well, then we
Then
wouldn't
we
receive our
wouldn't
COC,
vote.
and we'd,
Deny.
You can try.
we're realists as well,
Yeah,
so,
we hold the ace.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, anytime you want to vote, we're prepared to take it. Just the triggers get us the
But
information.
we know how Lou's going to vote, so we're not eager. Okay.
Okay, we've
So
a
we're going to
motion
continue
second.
for 2 weeks? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great.
I should, huh? Good night.
See you, thanks.
Next order of business is RDA for 137 Forest Street.
137.
37 Forest Ave. Here's the plan.
Did you want to keep that going? I've seen it.
All right, I'll use it as a worksheet if you don't mind.
You can.
All right, thank you. Joe, I don't know if you need this as a worksheet, please.
First, Amy, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I left mine.
All right, so design engineer and I walked the site and the wetland line. Wetland flagging looked reasonable. I didn't request any changes. New leaching field is outside the 100-foot buffer zone. Equipment, access, new D-box, and associated grading are within the outer reaches of the buffer. No tree removal is required. The existing system will be abandoned in place. And I asked that erosion control be extended along here, in front of the shed. And design engineer Jack is here you want to add?
Yep, I'll just add a couple things,
Yeah.
but Amy hit that pretty good. For the record, my name's Jack Sullivan, owner of the Sullivan Engineering Group. I'm here with the property owner, Bob Moore. He is a failed leach field. This is a pump system. He has a septic tank and a pump in the front yard. Those two items will remain. The septic tank's functioning, the pump system's fine. We're actually using the existing force main that runs up between the tree line. Then they'll hook onto that. They're going to put in a new leach field, a new D-box. You can see on the plan the existing leach field is within the 100-foot buffer zone. The new leach field is entirely outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. And as Amy stated, it's a D-box and some transitional grading that's within the 100 feet. The Board of Health, we submitted to them prior to ever submitting to this board. And when I submitted to you, now Board of Health's making their second review. It will be approved. They just had some minor notes to change. So that's why we're in front of you. The owner is going to put his house on the market shortly. He's already purchased a new house. So that's why we're here, to try to get the approval and get going on this. But we did show, the construction access. It's off an existing paved driveway. We showed the erosion control, running the full length of the construction entrance. And I have no problem with Amy asking us to extend the erosion control in the area around the shed.
Okay, thank you. Joe?
Is this a raised system?
No,
No, so it's no slope you have to worry about afterwards either?
no.
I have no questions.
And I should note, there'll be no soil stockpiling. So if I did have a stockpile here, I'd show it. But it's in an open area now. The grades are going to basically stay the same. It's just transitional grading off the edge of the system.
Excellent.
If there was a need for stockpiling, I would recommend right here along the side of the driveway. It's a nice flat lawn area,
Yeah.
out of the buffer.
Yeah.
I have no questions.
Well, you took two questions away. My thing was, and
Yes.
I'm a big nut about stockpile on the plan, and you say we don't need one. You're going to have pre-construction with Amy anyways, I'm sure. And my other concern was the construction access. It looked very narrow,
Let me,
and I was worried that the equipment wasn't going to be able to get in and out, but Amy's assured me that it is wide enough, so I don't have to...
so,
There it is on the
There it
screen
is.
now. But we got back there with an excavator for the deep
You could
holes.
drive through that.
No, those two pine trees, I wouldn't do that, I'd scratch my truck.
so this is
No.
coming off the driveway and they'd come up through here.
Right.
This is the access.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. But they can do it. I know you can do it if you don't care about your equipment, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Deb?
No questions.
Doug?
No question.
Motion?
So I recommended a -3 with pre-construction meeting with me or Ben to observe erosion control installation, no stockpiling materials within jurisdiction, and then a post-construction meeting with me or Ben to observe stabilized conditions and allow erosion control removal.
So moved. All those in favor say aye? Aye. Opposed? And that's unanimous. You all
Great.
set?
Thank you for the, thank
Thanks,
you.
Jack.
Thank you, Amy.
Yep. Now, the next one is,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
You should have been here last month. I mean, it was like 1,000. We'd open one. It was so hot. It's fine today. We had a fire air conditioning at it. Installed it. Yeah, it was a joy.
Okay.
So the next.
We're just waiting for Jordan, so
Oh, I'm sorry.
We'll give Joe a minute if he needs.
I didn't know he was gone.
he's fast. Okay, the next next one is an RDA for 707 Turnpike Street.
So this is a request for determination for the installation of 3 new parking spaces that will be gravel to the north of the building within lawn area. These gravel parking areas, spaces will be right off the existing gravel driveway that wraps around the back of the house or the structure. Partially within the 50-foot no-build, but they're to remain pervious. And Mr. Sweet is here this evening for any questions. I clarified with Mr. Sweet that these 4 through 12, these parking spaces called out at the south of the building are within the existing gravel driveway. So it's a matter of spray painting or marking them off so that they're obvious parking spots. But there's no changes proposed there. It's just,
It's a gravel driveway, how do they propose to mark them?
Frequently.
frequently,
Yeah, if you're gonna paint it, you're gonna do it frequently, yeah, it's ridiculous.
I mean, unless
Probably
you,
just gonna leave it alone, let the cars park there.
yeah, I mean, unless you put like posts, like signs on the side of the building and maybe some posts in front of,
Anything you recommend is, you know, it is a little ridiculous, but, you know, we want to comply, so that was a suggestion by, I think, the building inspector, that we mark them out in some fashion.
and putting them here would allow for, emergency vehicle access around the back of the building, so that they're not conflicting with any parked cars on the side, shoulder, or whatever.
Joe?
Mine is one of the record. I'm trying to recall, we have at least 2 prior orders of conditions on this particular property that I'm remembering. Most recently be the sewer connection, pretty minor in detail. There may be an open order of conditions without certificate of compliance yet.
Really?
Could be, so that's a technicality. The second is, when Louis, God rest his soul, was still with us, Louis had come in and wanted to do a lot of things on this building and parking area, driveway area, and that order of conditions was pretty restrictive of what could be done as a perpetual condition. So I want to make sure that this request isn't contrary to what we've already said can't be done. So we have to look at that other record.
Okay.
In this area is exactly where I'm remembering those conflicts being. When I say Louis, I don't mean you, Louis Kiemick.
I'm still alive.
But that's what I'm remembering on the property, and if it's not inconsistent with the other order, I don't have a particular issue with what they're now proposing.
Okay, thank you. Al?
Nothing.
I don't have issue with the new parking areas. I would like to see more discussion on the existing parking spaces. I know it's a gravel area, and that's fine, but they gotta be maintained. If you're using gravel, it's gonna get pushed around. I would say they have to be improved. You've been out there, I don't know.
I've been out there, yeah.
Do they need improvement?
That's one of the restrictions I think was on the original order, is they can't be paved.
No.
I mean, Louis expanded that driveway area, parking area
I remember.
on his own a couple decades ago, and without permits, and he, I think at one point wanted to pave it, and again, he's surrounded by wetlands.
Right.
It's 100% non-compliant, so, paving it, I think, was contrary to what we would have allowed, and I think it's why I'm saying, look at the old record. I think you're looking at a gravel driveway, as I
Yep.
recall.
Do we have a condition in that order that allows them to fix them? Because you can create more disturbance fixing them than installing them.
I'd have to I got
That's what we don't know.
a good memory, I don't have a great memory.
That's what we don't know. That's the question. That's the
All right.
open question.
That's the only questions that I have, is the maintenance of these parking spaces. Deb?
All set.
Doug?
I'm all set, it's just, the building is currently being used correctly?
It's not, it's vacant. We're in the process of painting it. We want to inhabit it as quickly as possible. This is
So
a
it's-
condition
so
of
There's nobody
certificate of
parking there
occupancy.
now?
Well, I have a truck there parked because but that's it. That's all the occupancy we've done so far.
Finding parking spaces in a gravel driveway is very difficult.
I beg your pardon?
Defining parking spaces in a gravel driveway is going to be very difficult.
If you require me to do it, one of the suggestions Paul made was to use fire hose and spike it into the ground and paint it white. I mean,
That wintertime, but,
yeah, well, so just to be clear, the use of these parking places will be my employees. We can designate them anyway. They want to, we all want to move here, so we're going to use those spaces the way they're designated because that's the way to get them in there. And
What's driving the question? Does the building inspector need to see X number of spaces? I mean,
that's correct.
So
We need 12 spaces.
isn't it just a matter of demonstrating that you can physically fit them?
Well, Paul's been very gracious, actually. He came out and made a site visit, and we parked his vehicle and mine on the, as if that's north, that would be east border there, and we measured it with a tape measure. There's enough room to get a fire truck through there, but the fire chief understandably wants more than just enough room, wants to be able to, bring an emergency vehicle in there, but there's more than ample space in the driveway to accommodate even more than 12 cars if we're not looking for anything more than enough room to get some kind of vehicle through there. There's plenty of room to get vehicles through there. So the suggestion was we put some spaces somewhere off the driveway. You tell me. We'll do what, kind of what you asked to do, but it's how I'm approaching this.
I don't think you have a conservation question there. You got a fire protection question versus the building inspector question. If you're not altering the driveway, and it's staying within the limits of where it is, which is what we were saying, and if it's not being repaved, which is what I think we said originally.
Yeah, I'm not paving
If
it.
everything's the same, I don't see the conservation question there, other than the 3 new spaces up on the edge.
right.
Well, that's what.
I don't see anything else.
Yeah, what I want to do is just dig some of the topsoil out of there. In fact, where in front of the building is very coarse there. When they finish that off, there's no topsoil there. It's going to be hard for the grass to come up through. So I was thinking to take that topsoil and just evenly spread it over there and seed it with grass so that maybe this much more in front of the building, and then just bring gravel in there so we have more space to park and keep our cars out of the way of any emergency vehicle. Again, it's all gravel, all permeable, minimal impact on the environment. I mean, I'm an organic gardener. I completely understand your concerns and tend to be as light on the property as we can be, but we want to inhabit it and work there. Not inhabit it, but
So I
work
think
there.
your first
From what I-
observation is right, you got to see what the conditions.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say what we should do is
Got to make sure we don't have
continue,
conflicting.
continue so Amy can research the old orders
Okay.
and we'll act accordingly.
Just to make sure we're not,
Yeah, I understand. Yep.
You fine with that?
I agree with you.
I would just assumed that
idea.
any previous stuff would have been resolved before they sold it, but I gather that's not the case.
Still good with it.
When you never know.
Still good with it.
That's fine.
They could very well, the outstanding orders could very well have certificates of compliance, but they may have ongoing restrictions
Oh, got it.
that we
Okay.
need to keep in mind, so.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so we need a motion to continue.
So moved.
Can I go ahead and start making those parking spaces?
No.
No.
I have to wait till we
Do
meet
we-
again?
Yeah, because there might be condition that's on the old order that says you can't disturb that area.
Well, he can indicate it on paper, he can indicate it on a proposed plan to show that it's capable of happening pending approval, which I don't see why you wouldn't get approval. We just have to make sure we don't have conflicting orders or conditions.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean. I'm not a
So in other
technical
words, instead of
person.
actually carving out and delineating the spaces on the ground, you just carry them on your record drawing to demonstrate that they can be put there, that there's space for them to be put there, and then when we know that there's no conflict with the previous orders, then we can
Don't the drawings already show that?
He has a plan now.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that's really all he needs.
He already has that. He doesn't do anything.
That's what I'm saying, he doesn't have to do anything.
No.
So
We
just wait
have to
till
re-
Amy
No,
does
I just need
your
to find
homework.
out.
Yeah, okay.
I gotta
Yeah.
research
Okay.
it.
The old order-
Come back in 2 weeks?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
I mean,
2
you
weeks.
don't
All
have
right.
to do anything at all.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah,
Yeah.
great, thank you.
You're welcome.
We're
So
trying to make
with
it
that,
easy
if
for him.
that's, just so I understand, if there's no conflicts there, that's likely to be an approval?
Say it again.
If there's no other outstanding orders, can we,
We can handle it without him.
Now, do
Yeah,
you
let's,
think- you
let's
think-
give them some guidance. We already have,
Is that
we already have a
project
full
acceptable?
perimeter gravel. I just want to give him some guidance, so he's not walking out blindly, not knowing
Yeah,
what to
just
expect.
kind of ignorant, I'd like
The,
to have a clue.
we already have a gravel driveway that's right up to the edge of the wetland itself. So these additional spaces inboard, if you will, are closer to the roadway, separated by this gravel driveway. I don't see it as any greater impact than what's already there.
I don't think so either.
So I'd be inclined to say fine,
I don't think there's.
so long as it's not in
an issue,
conflict.
but we just
Got
have
it.
to
As
find.
long as there's no conflict with prior orders. Okay,
Exactly.
great, thank you very much, very
Thank
helpful,
you.
thank you.
All right, so we get a motion and all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. You're all set, thank you.
Thanks.
This one's a continuing.
Yes, I'll give you a call once I catch up with you.
the thing, site visit,
Okay, yeah, I've been out there, so.
good.
yeah.
All right,
All right,
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Next one is 242-1745, that's a continuance, right, 350
Yes, so I have been playing phone tag with the project engineer to kind of get on the same page, and I just haven't been able to do that. So
Amy, what page is that?
so that, well,
me ask it
so
differently.
that they're clear on what the commission's issues are with the proposal.
They were here so long ago, I'm not sure they remember.
Okay,
The question I had raised last time they were here
Yeah.
was, right where you're proposing, everything you're showing on your drawing is where the snow stockpile is.
okay,
And they said, no, it wasn't. And I'm saying, yes, it is.
right,
Yes, it
And-
is.
And I went out and I took an aerial photograph and I superimposed their design drawing on it. And I
Yep.
circulated it.
Yep.
And they said, look, what you are creating here is a perennial stream, an improved perennial stream with a treatment area directly adjacent to it, within it, right where you stockpile your snow.
Snow.
My answer to them was, go back and redesign your project. I'm not sure they've ever heard that.
okay,
Yeah, the other
Well,
thing
that's-
too is if it was approved the way it is, the way it's designed,
yeah,
then, one, the shopping mall would have to give up stockpiling snow in where they customarily do. And they're also, when they sell Christmas trees in the wintertime, they'd have to give up, find another location on the site to sell the trees, not that place. It would have to basically be undisturbed. Because
And we asked all those questions the last time, the
Okay.
first time they were here, and then again at the very last time they were here. He walked away fully convinced, I believe, that his proposal wasn't impacting any of those functions, and they clearly are. So I'm not sure, let's say, what page are you
Okay.
on? Is he on that page? Because I doubt it.
okay.
So you need to
So I-
find out from him whether he
He understands.
understands that.
Right, that's what I wanted to make sure of.
Well, plus the fact that if they don't do something pretty quick,
Yeah.
we're gonna vote on it,
Yeah,
and it's gonna be denied.
yep,
So, I mean, we don't historically keep things on the agenda
Yeah.
for months.
so if they get a plan together that addresses your concerns, would we require them to renotice?
No,
abutters?
not yet.
Not yet? Okay,
If we had had abutters that came out, just so you understand where we,
Yeah, okay.
if abutters had previously come out for earlier hearings and have been discouraged away by continuance, we would make them re-notify. But nobody's ever come out for this.
okay,
That's correct. Never been in a butter.
okay.
Okay. You all set, Amy? All
Yeah.
set? All right,
So-
next one is
So
240,
motion to continue to,
oh, motion to continue, sorry.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is 242-1755 Ray Street.
That might be,
Yeah, you might be out of this.
no, I'm okay because it was, been sold.
Okay,
That's extinguished.
all right.
I'm just looking, Greg Hockman just sent me a text. He is 20 minutes out. I don't know if he's on this one or not.
No, he's
No,
All right.
No, he's Turnpike. He's
Okay, so he's
1600.
on his way here from another meeting, so he asked that we
jump around.
Okay, we got.
jump
well,
around if we
got-
have to. Yeah.
Well, we got a couple in front of that, so I think we'll be okay.
yeah,
Very good. Sounds like we can get it done then.
it's all yours.
That's not an invitation to drag it out, Betty.
No,
Ben,
it's
No,
not.
I'm not dragging it out,
Ben,
don't worry.
Ben, remember, less is-
Ranger
less is-
Engineering and Design.
less is more here.
I
Less is
submitted
more.
revised plans, and I think I addressed everything the commission wanted. And that's it.
Any questions, Joe?
I have none.
Yeah,
I could just say, we added the AC units, we added the 100-foot inner riparian zone. We did not add bulkheads because they're either garage unders or step-down garages with access to the garage. So those were the issues
For the
that,
walkouts, you mean?
either a walkout or the second access would come through the garage. They
Okay.
wouldn't have a bulkhead. The houses are designed with the garage is 4 feet below the sill elevation on the foundation, so there's a 4-foot stairway down into the basement from the garage. And that provides the second means of access instead of having a bulkhead.
Okay. So the,
And then the planting note as well.
okay, and so these squares behind the houses, is that deck?
That's a deck.
Deck,
And to the
okay.
right, on the little darker squares that are kind of to the right,
These things?
those are the AC units.
AC units, okay.
Yep. And then we added the landscaping in the front where the landscape areas would be.
nothing in the back.
And some walkways and,
Nothing, no landscape in the back, no trees, nothing.
No, he said, why,
After they have
it's
to
cool, why would I want to plant trees out back?
get a sit-down lawnmower. Do you have any questions?
Guess he likes grass.
Doug? No question. Okay. Amy, you all set with this? Okay, motion?
so that would be a motion to close the hearing?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No chance. She's not gonna have the decision till
That'll be the next meeting.
Next meeting, that's fine.
next meeting, is that okay? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one is 242-1756, 78 Vest Way. Why do you get all the busy plans? Wow,
Luck of the draw.
good job.
Okay, so good evening, Maureen Harold, from North Environmental Services, here on behalf of the Perry family. These plans are just colored up for your convenience. We have a bordering vegetated wetland that's actually located off-site. Very well defined at the bottom of the slope with an intermittent stream channel. I show the 25-foot no disturb in a light yellow, the 50-foot no build in a peach color, and the 100-foot buffer zone in a bright yellow. Now, we are proposing to install an in-ground swimming pool, patio area, as well as a mulch bed. Fortunately for this project, it's in an area of lawn, flat area. We're showing the access drive on the easterly side of the property, which is the far side of the wetland. We also show a stockpile area. The erosion controls are shown in orange. And the homeowners are proposing to do an addition squeezed in between the deck and the screen porch. It's very close to the 100-foot buffer zone, so I have recommended the homeowners just show that on the plan. This will be a full foundation, kitchen extension. Obviously, when they do construct the addition, that existing deck will need to be removed or raised. And I can open it up to the commission.
Joe?
I was going to find into the last three words you said.
Okay.
So the deck, I was exactly looking at that. The deck is almost freestanding. They're building a new addition. To do that, you're going to have to take that deck down, which is in fact within the 100.
Correct.
So even though the addition's outside the 100, the activity is still within jurisdiction. So the deck demolition is jurisdictional.
Correct. There's a slight corner located within the 100-foot buffer zone. That is
Yeah.
correct.
And when they tear it down to build the addition, is a new deck going back in its place?
No. I talked to the homeowners regarding that, because obviously if a new deck was going back into place within the 100-foot buffer zone, we would need to show it on the plan. But at this point in time, they are not interested in installing another deck because they will have the patio for the pool.
So the plan needs to be modified that says deck, existing deck to be raised.
Okay, that's not a problem.
And then it not replaced or anything, would it just say that?
Okay.
Because then I don't want it to be implied that in the future they can simply go back and put a deck in later on because the plan showed it.
I
That's not the
understand.
case. And if we would then be permitting demolition of the deck, and by virtue of showing the addition outside, we're having no comment on it, but we're also acknowledging that it was part of the original intent. I'd be okay with that.
If that deck's going to be removed, the plan should indicate it, that it's going to be removed. The
I
plan
will-
doesn't do that.
Yeah, we're going to, but you're going to.
Yes, I will revise the plan, absolutely.
So that leads me to a question. The patio is, surrounds the pool. Are they going to extend the patio to connect to the house?
No, the patio is shown as to where they want to build it, and that is the limit of the patio. Worst case scenario, if they did want it to extend the patio, there's a substantial area outside of the 100-foot buffer zone where they could do that. But at this point, that has not been indicated.
So.
But you know how this works.
Yeah.
That
Very well, very well.
that if we grant the permits for what's shown, so if there's any, and you've already asked the question of them, it just doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense to have a, nice house, a nice new pool, and removal of a deck. It would seem only logical that they try to connect that to this new house, a new addition, some way. But they're not showing anything, and it does beg the question, it really does. So while the plan is being revised to show deck to be raised, I think you really drive the question home and make sure they're certain on that, because
Okay.
they are only going to be getting permission for a pool.
The screen porch has access outside, so I would think if anything, they could access it from the screen porch and we could show a patio there. And I can even just show that on the plan if that is okay with the commission. It would be outside the 100-foot buffer anyhow, but just to show a connection, I don't think that's a problem. The plan needs to be revised.
I mean, so the end of the driveway, there's a brick walkway down and there's some stairs down, which will then be going into this little triangular unimproved area right into the mulch bed, so, I mean,
Right. No.
There's a
good point.
conversation you need to
Very,
have with the
very
client.
good point. Very good.
I will have a conversation. Originally, when they spoke about putting an addition on, I thought it was going to go on the westerly side of the dwelling, completely outside the 100-foot. And when I saw it in this location, I advised them to show it on the plan because it was so close to the 100-foot buffer zone. But I will speak to the client and revise the plan to show the connection as suggested.
So what I'm not seeing is, any cabana area or any pool filter area or even the type of pool filter specified. Maybe it's in the NOI. But, come back with all those types of answers. But I have no other issue other than those unclear answers. Not your, their unclear intent.
Amy directed the same questions to me, so I spoke to the homeowner. It's going to be a cartridge system, a no backwash system. The pool equipment area will be outside the 100-foot buffer zone. I can certainly show that on the plan since it needs to be revised anyhow. So that's not a problem.
Okay. Well said.
I'm all set, no questions.
I'm all set.
No questions.
Doug?
I mean, there are other concerns that were raised by Amy about this. You know, you got a fence on the property that encroaches onto town land.
Yeah, I noticed
On
that
the south part.
after our site visit, Maureen, that the fence does encroach onto town land.
It also encroaches onto your butter Mosby's land as well.
Is that a problem encroaching on town land?
Yes. Can't speak for Mosey.
Okay. I mean, we can certainly relocate the fence. The town land is just currently a wooded piece of land.
I mean, it is, but depending on it, there is also an adverse possession issue that we don't want to get into. I suppose it works against the town as well as it is private property.
Adverse possession cannot be flexed against a municipality, state, or federal
Okay,
government.
you know, but the thing is,
Well,
The town couldn't do anything
unless
on
the
that land
town
anyhow.
gives you permission to have it there,
know, but-
then I would move it off town land.
I would say we want to.
And the same thing with Mosby. If they give you permission, they don't care, then fine.
Okay. I can show the fence being relocated as well on the revised plan.
Yeah, talk to your applicant about that and see what they want to do. If they want to approach the town about leaving it where it is,
That might be a process.
That might take longer than moving it.
This
it's easier to move it.
This is open space. This is actually under care and custody of us. So I think we say no. I mean, verify. I think this is part of the best way open space. I think it's under our
If this is
care and custody.
under our jurisdiction, then the answer is no, remove the fence.
Yeah, I believe it's under our jurisdiction.
Also, Amy, if I remember correctly, is this a place there's 2 areas of brush dumping?
Yes. So there is some yard waste dumping right here at the beginning of the wetland line, A1 and A2. And there is some debris, like, it's more like leaves and sticks, but it's obvious, and it's along the slope.
Where?
Say along here.
On
right
town
along
property?
there. On town property. Both on town property.
Right.
So that'll need to be removed and,
Well, is this something that this particular applicant put on town property? Or
I
did
didn't
somebody
see
from
them
across
do
the
it.
street put it on?
yeah.
Well, it's unlikely it would be across the street.
So for the stuff that's out front on Best Way, I don't know, you don't show who's across the street, if anybody. So I don't, it's hard to say. They could say, I didn't put it there.
Right. I don't know
Yeah, no
who
proof
put
that
it
they did.
there.
I mean, the slope, yeah, we can assume that they're dumping leaves on the
That's
slope.
probably back there,
absolutely.
may very well be there.
Yeah, yeah.
But up here in the front, I would,
Right.
I don't know. Certainly, it's easier for them to remove it than it is to either that or tell the town to remove it. It's their property.
Right.
And also in regard to the markers that need to be going up there?
Yeah, I'm not sure where, should that be along the property line?
Or do you want the markers on town land?
If it's something that this applicant is going to be responsible for, then it should be on their property along their property line.
Well, they have a fence for the most part along the property line.
Well, they can put some
Markers on.
Medallions on it.
markers on the fence saying, wetlands on the other side, stay
Truthfully,
away.
they're not required to. They're not in the wetlands. They put them in the
I know,
fence.
they're not in the no build or the no disturb.
So they really don't have to. I mean, it'd be nice if they did, but they don't have to.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
You're right.
I would say, give us a set of plans for the changes. The fence moved.
Okay.
If you're gonna have somebody come move the fence, I would suggest them taking it off the Mosby property. They probably don't even know. I mean, it's not really on that much, but you never know.
No, it's hard to.
And I think, I don't know why they did it that way. They could have made a nice straight line
There was probably a tree.
Avoiding trees.
There was probably a
Avoiding
tree in the
trees.
way.
Yeah,
There's
there's
probably
trees in
something
the
in the
way.
way, and you go around
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Go around it.
It doesn't matter
why
what
they
land it
made
is,
it.
we'll just put a fence
Yeah,
there.
it's easier to go around it, you
Yeah.
know, until it got recorded.
What else?
It
What
was
else?
neither open or notorious,
What
now
else,
it is.
what else we looking for? In the brush dumping?
First dumping.
The deck to be raised, the pool equipment, and then a walkway to the pool.
And just clarity that, you know, whatever's not shown on the plan is not approved. So if all those things come out as ideas during construction, they're not approved.
Right.
So they really should think this through before
Right.
before we close out this hearing.
But to your point, this walkway is gonna go to where? I mean,
To a mulch bed, you're right.
to a mulch bed and,
So we'll have to modify that and
Okay.
show it to the pool and then maybe to the screen porch or something.
All your friends come over for the pool party, they're all going to that walk and then going to the pool. There's gotta be a
No,
path. There's
that's
gonna
a
be a
good
path
point.
there. There has to be.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All right, motion to continue? So moved.
Second.
All those, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay. Next order of business is 338 Blue Ridge Road.
Same hitter.
We got the last plan was confusing.
Oh, boy. Never mind.
Environmental. Here with me tonight is Michelle Verminski. She is the homeowner of the property.
Try to think of everything on there, so hopefully we put it on.
We filed a notice of intent to raise the existing deck, patio, walkway, and stairs. We'd like to construct an in-ground swimming pool, patio, hot tub, fire pit, pool house addition, shed, extend the driveway, repave the driveway, a fence, replace the existing deck, portion of the patio, remove trees, grading and utilities within the 100-foot buffer zone and 200-foot riverfront area of Mosquito Brook. Now, I met Amy out on site last week to just walk the site with her, look at the wetland flags. We did make a change to the wetland flags. We moved 5A, upgrading it 6 feet. We eliminated wetland flag 6A, and we connected the existing 4A to the new 5A, and the 5A to the 7A. So it shifted the boundary a bit in the offsets, but regardless, we still meet the commission's required 25-foot no disturb and the 50-foot no buffer, no structure, I'm sorry. The work that is proposed within the riverfront is behind the proposed driveway extension and shed. We are proposing to remove some trees and grade in that area. We're proposing 328 square feet of alteration in the riverfront. And as mitigation, we're proposing to plant 3 shrubs, native shrubs within this area.
Thank you.
At the site visit, Amy did note that we don't have a stockpile area shown on the plan. That will need to be added to the plan. I need to add that the existing driveway will be repaved, so the existing pavement will be removed. New pavement will come, but we're not expanding the existing driveway other than at the end of the driveway. We were discussing a stockpile area, and we had thought adjacent to the driveway to put that stockpile area. That's just so that they're able to have some sort of access into and out of their garage. The machine will access the site through the existing driveway and go behind the dwelling. In the limit of work, that's shown in orange, so we are proposing tree removal and grading.
Behind the pool or the,
Yes, behind the pool.
Joe?
When I'm looking, I'm trying in my mind trace the grading back from the proposed deck area towards the wetland and up to the no disturb, at least the limit of disturbance. It's a pretty steep slope.
Tree lines up
And I'm curious, did they consider, you know, behind the pool area at least, you know, a retaining wall as an alternative? And
Yes, there should be, I thought Merrimack put the retaining wall in.
No, they
No.
should.
you know, they're showing no grading. I
Oh,
think
there's
it,
supposed to be a retaining wall. That's in the contract that we have with the people doing a retaining wall.
behind the pool.
Yeah.
so that helps with the grading for Don, sure. It also helps with
Yes.
separation.
Sorry, I
The
didn't
plan
realize
doesn't,
they
no, the plan doesn't show that. And
Yeah,
they-
we'll add it. It's definitely in on the proposal that we got, like
Okay.
from the contractors to do one. I didn't realize, I missed out, there's so many lines that we didn't have that in. I thought we did.
No, this is just the grading coming down.
Okay, yeah,
to
there's
the
supposed to
fence.
be a wall.
It seems, it's a bit of a juggling act. I guess the soil stockpile, you could theoretically use at the end of your driveway area with erosion control protecting it, while the pool's being built at the very end of all of this. I could only envision that's when you're gonna tear up the driveway.
Right, the driveway will be the last.
Expand it and pave it all at the very end.
Yeah, that will be the very last thing
Work
we
your
do.
way out.
So we
Yeah.
use that
Yeah.
area for everything that they need.
so would there be a retaining wall behind the shed and the extended driveway as well, or?
No. So we're just proposing grading within that area, and that is located within the 200-foot riverfront area. It's 328 square feet is what we're proposing to disturb. This area.
Okay, yes. Yeah, I know it was supposed to be.
The other thing that jumps out to me, there's a lot of, I know it seems silly because a pool is a pool, but there's a lot of impervious area being added on an area that has a very large house and a relatively small upland portion of the lot. There almost ought to be some consideration for, you know, infiltrative best management practice devices, whether it's be incorporating into a rain garden or some sort of landscape feature or truly an area to maybe infiltrate some of this water. Maybe the pavers themselves in the patio are porous. I don't know that. It says block. So I gotta assume that they're impervious.
I think they are impervious at this point, but we can discuss that option as pervious patio area or, as you suggested, a rain garden.
Yeah, I think we don't normally, we're certainly not gonna make you analyze stormwater, but I think some consideration to get the water into the ground for everybody's benefit. You don't want erosion in your backyard anyway.
Yeah.
You know, those are good things to have. Blue Ridge is on sewer, right? You don't have septic out the back, right?
Right, no
No.
septic. It's,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm all set.
I have a couple questions. The shed at the end of the driveway, I'm trying to, that's out of the 100 or in 100?
That's in the 100-foot. It's just outside the 200-foot riverfront area, and it's outside of the 50-foot no structure.
It's outside the 50.
Maureen, I'm not sure if the, with the change in wetland flagging, if the no disturb zone and 50-foot no build were adjusted accordingly with that line?
No, so this evening I wanted to come to the commission and just introduce the project. I knew that I needed to adjust the wetland boundary and the offsets.
Okay.
But I wanted to get your input prior to making the changes. And we're still waiting on a DEP file number anyhow, so
Yeah.
the
So Amy,
project
that's
will
an
need.
important point. So the line is physically agreed to in the field, but it may not be depicted on the plans?
Exactly.
Right.
Or if the line's been properly picked up on the plan, we're not so sure the buffer zones.
Or adjusted accordingly.
Okay.
to align
Yeah,
with
that's
new
obviously
line,
critical
New wetland line.
to everything we just said.
It is critical with the shed and the driveway extension.
Right, so the boundary we only moved one flag up 6 feet, so I don't anticipate that it's going to affect the no structure zone. We're certainly in compliance with the 25-foot no disturb, but again, the plans will be revised for the next hearing.
Okay.
The other question I had, if I don't know why you need 18 feet beyond the existing driveway that you want.
Yeah, it's just to kind of, so my parents will be living with us, and it just gives an extra parking area for them.
I thought it was there for a turnaround. Okay, the only
Well,
question.
it's tight, well, we've only been there a week. It is kind of tight to get
Wait
into
till
that
winter.
driveway. So you do have to back up, so it would help that way too, but.
Well, my suggestion was by shrinking it, but that, it would get it that
If we
much
have to,
farther
right.
away than on the riverfront. Like if you made it 10 feet, that would move it over, that would move it in 8 feet.
Well,
And-
as it's designed right now, it's outside of the riverfront. The riverfront is shown as that pink line. So it's outside the 50-foot and it's outside the 200-foot riverfront area.
But to your point, Lou, that it does push grading and tree removal into the
Yeah, because
riverfront
that's a
because of
big
it.
fill on that corner, correct, isn't it?
Yes,
Yes.
we are filling around the corner.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's a big fill.
That's the area where the flag's adjusted too, right?
Well, the flag is
A little-
adjusted out here, Joe, with its notches.
Might be a little bit.
Our wetland flag,
Might be a little
5A, was adjusted up 6 feet.
Right. So
So,
we connected 4 to 7
right.
and eliminated 5 and 6 and created a 5A in between the two.
From looking at this, it's like a 4-foot fill off the shed. So if you slope it down to you'll be in the riverfront.
We are, right. So we're proposing 328 square feet of alteration of the riverfront area. So that would include the tree removal, the grading, and as mitigation, we're proposing to put 3 native shrub plants and that was just the start. I didn't know if the commission had any other suggestions for mitigation, but it's just a fairly small area we're proposing to encroach.
I mean, between the, because you're gonna have to backfill the wall on the outside somewhat, I think, by the pool. You're pretty much gonna have to, I don't know how far the wall, I would like to see on the next, because it's gonna be continued, I would like to see how far you propose the wall.
Okay.
And the area where the extension and the shed is, I'd like to see the limit of grading and fill that you're gonna use, how far it's gonna go. Is it gonna go on the riverfront, is it gonna go, that could be a factor.
The discussion I just heard, though, was that what was agreed to was connecting the existing A4 flag to the A7 flag, and that is the more accurate line, and not using A5 and A6. Is that
Right.
correct?
Correct.
So if that's correct, this discussion we're having in some detail will absolutely move the 50-foot no disturb line closer to the shed. Whether it gets to the shed or not, I don't know, but I visually drew that connecting line, and
Right.
I think we have a discussion. We would always require the line be accurate, agreed, and showed on the plan first, so we're simply not there yet to talk in detail about the proposal specifically in this area is kind of reckless on our part.
Right. I'm just, these are the issues that I have that have to be addressed along with, I want to know how far the walls are going.
No, and I appreciate your input because that'll help us when we come to the next meeting, that I can address those concerns. So,
Okay.
so that's why I wanted to come tonight and just open up the hearing and get your feedback.
Yeah, I would, having the lines where they belong would be helpful in those two areas, for me anyways.
So the riverfront disturbance area, is that number going to hold, you think, or is it going to get bigger?
No, the riverfront area is going to hold, so that's 328 square feet.
So normally a mitigation or replication is usually somewhere 2 to 1 or 3 to 1 for the, under normal conditions.
For riverfront mitigation or
Yeah.
wetland replication?
Wetland replication is usually 3 to 1. Riverfront mitigation, my experience has always been at least 2 to 1.
Are you referring to the number of trees you cut?
Or the total square foot, the square foot area you're going to restore or provide mitigation in.
Okay, I mean, there's additional area we could provide it east of that as well. That's
Okay.
an area of lawn.
Can
So-
you show that?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
And show the square footage,
Okay.
please? Thank you.
And also, do you have noted the construction access on the plan?
I do not have that noted. I will add that, but it will be accessed through the existing driveway.
And
Stockpile.
And,
And
yeah,
stockpile.
and stockpile, right, okay. And also, it was noted that there was fresh yard waste dumping between WFA 13 and 14?
Yeah, so that was at the tail end of the wetland line. There was an area, it was fresh, so we need to take that out.
Within a week?
They must have had
Yeah, I was gonna say,
landscapers.
we did hire a landscaper
Landscaper.
before we moved in. We definitely told them they couldn't put anything back there, so if they did, they'll remove it.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely, because we literally have just been in there.
Sure.
Amy, what was the flag numbers?
It was near, actually, we have 214s listed, but it was in the vicinity of A13 and A14.
Okay.
That's what it's somewhere over here.
So that's actually on the adjacent property?
Was that there?
This is, right. I don't know who dumped it. It could have been the previous homeowners.
Or it could be their house.
Or it could be the neighbor.
Also on the abutter's property too, not your own property.
Right.
But, you know, property line isn't clear in the field.
Well, I know they're
Sure,
not
the
clear, but
landscaper
the
didn't-
question I would have, I don't know
Yeah,
where the
I-
house on the abutting property is. Is it from this property that dumped in there, or is it from the neighbor who dumped there?
Seems like it came from 338.
It might
but
very well
just-
have.
But,
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll talk to we did hire before we moved in for them to do it, but we'll see if they can move
Okay, and
it.
Amy, you had noted that the edge of the tree line coincides with the drip edges?
yeah, I think so, right, Maureen, that
Yes.
individual tree locations aren't called out, but the edge of tree line is drip edge. So, with the grading behind the pool, that's where I was concerned that they were gonna, you know, impact trees. Either, even if they didn't remove them, they may be filling around their root base and impacting them, so.
It might kill 'em.
I just wanted to make sure it was really clear. So perhaps with the retaining wall, that issue goes away.
Right, but the commission doesn't allow retaining walls within 50 feet, is that correct?
No,
It has to be 50 feet or further away from the wetland retaining
That
walls?
is correct. It depends on the height of the wall.
Yeah, the height, yeah.
Oh, so it could be terraced even?
Exactly. If it's, so structure, so some retaining walls require structural engineering and building permit. As a structure, those can't be any closer than 50.
So what's
But if
that?
it's a landscaped retaining wall terrace, as part of your land feature, then they are allowed right up to the 25.
So is that 4 feet and above? I think.
It's about 4
Structural.
feet above 4 feet.
I think it's retaining height of 4 feet or above, yeah.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Because we had that at Regency. We had that issue at Regency.
I think we did, yeah.
Well, it says driveways, roadways, retaining walls, and landscape boulder walls may be allowed in the 50-foot no-build when no other feasible location or alternative means of access exists. So they
Okay.
really have to show they have to
The
be.
distinction we've always said is that if it's a structure, i.e. building permit required, then it says it's a structure that must meet the
Okay.
50
Okay.
without meeting those alternatives. But again, I think what we're talking about in height is likely to fit within a landscape feature.
Okay. That's exactly what Michelle would
Yeah.
like to do. I just wanted to be sure if it came back,
Yeah, the right size.
it would be permittable.
And also the final comment from me is no disturbance zone markers
Okay.
should be either on the fence or on the trees, south of the fence.
Okay.
Any more questions? Motion?
Continue till
Is 2
the
weeks
next
enough?
meeting.
Please.
Is 2 weeks enough time?
Yes.
Yeah, you don't have a number anyways.
Somebody already moved it?
I
Yeah,
did.
and
Second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next one, we could probably hear both of them at the same time, Greg, don't you think? 242-1757 and 242-1758.
No, not here.
Okay.
Good evening, Greg Hockman from Williams and Strategis. Here presenting the applicants for the two notice of intents filed for 1620 and 1650 Turnpike Street. This is kind of down towards the gas station on 114 heading towards Middleton. It would be on your left. There's two commercial buildings set back in the woods. They've been there for a while. They both have septic systems. It was before there was sewer available to tie into when these were constructed. Both systems are limping along, starting to show some signs of failure. The Board of Health has instructed both buildings to upgrade their septic system or tie into the municipal sewer. So the proposal is to tie into the sewer via force main. There's no way to get there by gravity, so we have to put in a pump chamber for each building and a pressurized force main that would run through the properties up to Route 114, where they could be tied into the existing sewer. The lines themselves would be 4-inch ductile iron, and the sewer, well, the pump chambers would be precast concrete 6-foot diameter structures that would be set in the ground. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have any work in the buffer zone. We could get most of the work outside the buffer zone, but it would involve a substantial amount of work in the paved parking lot and paved driveway for each building. We'd have to wrap around this way, and we'd still be clipping the buffer zone from an isolated wetland that exists here. Property owner here has agreed to a easement across his property to allow the building out back to come through that easement very close to their force main in the same 5-foot wide trench. A good chunk of the work is out in existing maintained lawn areas, but there is a lot of work within wooded buffer zone as well. We've gotten all the work outside the 25-foot no disturb, and both of the precast pump chambers are outside the 50-foot no build. But there would be the need to do some trenching using a small mini excavator within jurisdictional areas. Erosion controls would be installed. Following the installation of the trench, all areas would be loamed and seeded. When we were out here walking the wetland line, Amy brought up a good point. She said, she first asked if any of the trees would have to be removed for the installation of the trench. I think some small trees will have to be removed. But any large trees, I think if there was some wiggle room in the order to allow rerouting the trench during a pre-construction meeting once it's staked out, that would be helpful, because we may be able to move this trench to get around some of the larger trees. It is important, though, with that said, to try to keep this run as straight as possible and avoid bends, which is why we couldn't avoid removing all of the trees in the entirety of the length of the trench. We have erosion controls proposed on this side, which would protect an isolated wetland here, and on the other side of the trench to protect a very large BVW that I think is contiguous with the big pond you can see out back here. We did flag wetlands on this piece here, but the buffer zone falls short of the work, so we're not in the buffer zone from that resource area on the other side. Late today, we did receive file numbers with no comments. We're not within a mapped estimated or priority habitat area. I think overall, this will be a net benefit to get both these buildings on sewer and get rid of the leach fields. I'd be happy to answer any questions or concerns.
At its closest point as proposed, not counting wiggle room for trees, closest point, is the force main to the actual resource area? And is the land relatively flat, or does it drop off quickly?
It's flat, and then it drops off to the wetland. It's not a natural slope. There's existing utilities in there, an underground electric. That's where the water service currently is for the buildings. We have to be 10 feet from that water service. The water service is on the wetland side of the proposed trench.
So you say 10 feet closer to the buildings?
That's right.
Further away from the wetlands?
Yep. Yep. So the closest point of the wetland to the force main, it looks like it's probably about 30 feet plus or minus, and that's right around wetland flag C9. It's a 30 scale plan, so it's a little deceiving. Yeah, I'm getting about 32, 33 feet.
Okay. So it's far enough away that we wouldn't have to worry about, a double wall pipe.
I wouldn't think so.
And it's ductile iron main to begin with.
It is.
It sizes out that they need 4-inch diameter?
Yeah, it goes from 2 in the actual structure to a 4 by the time it leaves the structure. And they're grinder pumps. There's dual pumps in each pump chamber, and they are grinder pumps. I think the trench is going to have to be at least 4 feet deep. I don't have an actual depth. I just looked at the detail sheet, and it's not specified.
Or you get frost cover, but you're going to be above water line, a water table.
That's right. Yep. And Amy found a bunch of tires while we were reviewing the wetland line, and I think, a lot of them can be removed by hand. I'd say probably at least a dozen. They look fairly old.
Maybe when all the vegetation's down, it's easier to see. It's pretty jungle-like. We did walk the line. Actually all of them, and the ones to the east.
No other questions for me?
Al?
I'm good right now.
I'm good. All set. Doug?
So I just had a quick question. So when we do the pre-construction and with the wiggle room, trying to avoid large trees, we have the line, the force mains right now on the far east side of the easement? Is it in the middle of the easement right now, or, do you know what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah. So the force mains are closer to the building side of the utility easement. We
Okay.
don't have them down the center of it.
Yeah.
I think if we put them down the center, we'd end up in the 25-foot for a little bit of the work with some of the machine treads down towards wetland flags. Is it C9? C9?
Dealing with Forest, so was Doug and Louis, probably even Al and Deb. Dealing with ductile iron, your deflection limit in each stick is pretty limited, so there's, when you talk about wiggle, it's nowhere near as liberal or flexible as a PVC, job
Right.
that's being laid in, so you're gonna be pretty limited to keeping it as straight as possible, and if you exceed those deflection limits, you're putting thrust blocks in, and that's why I was asking depth versus proximity to the wetlands, because if you get a rupture point, that's not properly thrusted and you create enough pressure, you could have a bigger problem by trying to avoid a tree.
Right.
You really want to be as straight as possible. So what I'm hearing is that the water line dictates, it's already there, water line's there, and you have to maintain 10 feet, that's just the regulation.
Right.
So you're going to be closer to the building. Any tree we would be losing would be only to that isolated wetland up front within jurisdiction. The others would be already separated by the water line to the wetland side, to the opposite side of the easement.
Yeah, we'd be out of the no-build zone from the C-series wetland, which is not the isolated wetland. We'd be closer to the isolated wetland, which is really a glorified drainage ditch that's not really working well now.
Like most of the shoulder on 114.
I think at one point in time, before the utilities were brought through, it appears that the street drainage from 114 went into the B-series, and the B-series was more than likely connected to the C-series.
So I just want to be careful of when we talk about wiggle room. I mean, it really comes right down to the function of the sewer main, which is, to me, it's a net improvement on a failed system anyway. And if we do have to lose a tree to maintain that straightness up in the isolated area, I think it's a pretty straight, no pun intended, but it's a pretty straight decision to make.
Right. And it's very wooded. There's plenty of other trees. I think we're definitely going to lose one 10-inch. I think it was a maple.
We went all around.
No, I just have, I misunderstood when you said wiggle room. I thought it was just doing the line. Where you were gonna put the trench. Like I said, the pipe itself is very unforgiving. You can't. So I think, Amy, you'll be able to set up the line that's conducive to the applicant and to the commission.
That's going to happen when you stake it out.
Yeah, we're going to stake it out prior to the pre-construction meeting, and if we can take the whole thing within the easement and
Keep the whole
move
thing
it,
straight, yeah.
that's what I was referring to.
Not so much wiggling, but sliding it.
That's right.
Sliding it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my only question. Thank you. Deb, all set. All right, motion?
What are we looking for?
Motion to approve, right?
To close?
Motion to close, yeah.
Close, yeah, close.
We'd be closing. Are you talking for both?
You got the number?
Yeah, both.
We
of them.
did.
And we have it.
Yeah.
I
I don't have a written.
The motion to close
for you
and
yet.
issue the decision within 21 days.
But what do you
Does
need?
that give you that time?
Do you
What
need?
do I need? No.
Yeah, on this?
Just nothing.
Can you write the
So
decision for
if we were to
that?
close the hearing, we could get that order issued within the 21 days. We could, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll get you a decision
Second.
on the next meeting to look at,
Okay.
right?
So you have a motion and a second.
All those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Let's just get the
Thank you.
applicant squared away here. The decision will be done by the next meeting. But we'll start it from here, so you get 14 days and just another 7 days.
we'll let the Board of Health know, and they'll be very happy.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you just have to set up the pre-construction with Amy, that's all. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
You too.
Next one is
For
enforcement.
the record, show there are no butters.
Yeah, no butters.
I don't think so. There's only another couple here, and I don't think they're here for that.
We notified.
So they
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the back?
I think
But
it
there's-
was
it's
probably the
not-
condo development next door.
Okay.
Thanks, Greg.
Next one is an enforcement order, 350 Forest Street.
So Ben and I went out there yesterday to take a peek, because the commission will recall that there was dumping in the wetland, and at that time, water levels were really high, and physically getting into the wetland to remove the stuff wasn't going to happen. So these are pictures of yesterday. Water levels are still really pretty high. I attempted to walk in there with my boots on and quickly got sucked in. So I think we got to wait for drier conditions, honestly.
What is the
So
date?
what is it? It's just like yard
It's like,
clippings and
yeah, a
debris?
mound of, yeah, yeah.
What is the date of the enforcement order? It's good till when?
Well, it was, the last discussion was from December.
So we have to extend it, how long do you think we should extend it to?
Labor Day. I'd move it to Labor Day. We don't know,
Well,
we don't know
maybe-
when it's gonna dry out.
I know.
I'll tell you one thing, you get beyond the Labor Day, now you're in the
You're not gonna
rainy,
bother.
the summer, September rainy
Well,
season.
historically, you'd be right, except the last couple of Septembers have been drier than July.
Yeah.
Cutting hay, it's burned into my mind because normally I would cut in June and July, and I haven't got anything yet. Can't get on anything, so I gotta wait it out too.
So you want to wait till September 1st?
Well, you could
We
extend
can
it that long.
revisit it, we can revisit it then, yeah.
I mean, I probably would revisit it in the middle of the summer,
Yeah.
July.
Yeah, a couple
You
weeks,
know.
couple, 3 weeks, check it out again, but I mean,
Right.
I would give the whole summer. You don't know when it's gonna stop,
I agree with that.
just so you don't get sucked in again.
Right. So,
Maybe the weather will be nice, you won't mind going swimming.
extend to,
We're gonna have to buy you some waders, probably, huh?
yeah, I got the knee-high ones.
No, you need the,
You're right up to the neck.
you need the waders,
And we'll even get you a snorkel if you need it.
waders and a lifeline.
Okay, yeah, a lifeline.
The
that's-
lifeline's what you need.
That's the key.
The depth of the water does not make that any easier.
Yeah, we found that, is the line. All right, so September 1st,
so-
does that work for you?
Yeah, so what's our September? So we have a September 11th meeting and a September 25th meeting.
11 sounds good.
11 sounds good.
Okay.
All right, we need a motion to
So-
extend
so
the
moved.
enforcement order till September 11th.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous.
Okay,
Next one
great.
is 422 Waverly Road enforcement order.
Okay, so I popped out there today. Hold on. Oh, wait a minute. It looks like they planted, so this was, the commission will recall, it was a generator installed in the 50-foot no-build. The the RD actually, they ended up filing a, what was it, an RDA? Or, what was it, RDA, with conditions that they were to plant 3 to 4 shrubs along inside the no disturb zone and install a post
This,
with markers and then markers on the fence. So it looks like they installed the shrubs, and they're right along here, so I don't know, get a better picture. So they look like arborvitae type, but I don't see any posts. But I did see some dumping of yard waste. So that has to get addressed.
Is that new?
I don't know.
Because that land off to the right, right beyond where they planted, is
It's a
not,
landscaping dump.
but it's also not their property.
Yeah.
If you look at that previous photograph
Yeah.
that showed the shrubs that had been planted,
Yeah.
everything that's going crazy to the left of those shrubs is not their property. I went out and did the site visit on this one. That's owned by an abutter, and the abutter that owns that property has historically been dumping there and cutting and dumping there. That's not even their responsibility in there.
Okay.
So unless we have a nexus that shows that they're actually going in and dumping, I honestly don't, I wouldn't put it on them unless you had a trail.
Where's is the resource area on that abutting area,
Yes.
abutting property?
Yes.
It is, okay, I thought it was to the
Whole
back.
piece.
All right.
It's a vertical piece that comes right down the Waverly
Drops right
Road.
down to the river, right?
Well, it crosses the road.
Across the road.
There's
Yeah,
a large landowner, a large parcel owner
Oh, really?
that owns that little strip.
The old farm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they did, and there was some big tree cutting that took place there that was done by the actual landowner and not by the people that
Wait,
planted
okay.
the shrubs.
Okay.
When I went out to do the site visit, it was very eye-opening.
Okay.
So we ordered markers, but you're not finding the markers at any rate?
Right.
All right.
Right. So we still need the markers.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty straightforward.
they could put little posts up.
Yeah.
I remember if I think I remember, the applicant, it was represented with her father.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
and, I think they just need to know that we have markers, and
Yep.
that's where they get them from.
What started this whole thing was the electrician that they hired to install the generator did not understand or disagreed with the fact that we had jurisdiction over the property. He wanted to he wanted to object to our jurisdiction, and sadly the building inspector and the wiring inspector told him to go ahead and put the generator in pre-permit. So the Form U system fell apart there. That's how the whole thing. The landowners relied upon the contractor, and the contractor took a shortcut, and they were in a catch-22.
He was adamant that the generator was not a structure.
Well, it wasn't just that too. He just simply said that
I know.
he
Yeah.
wasn't gonna. He wasn't going to agree with jurisdiction, and it was a bit of a contest.
Okay.
So,
This isn't a zone one.
All right, so we just need to continue until they get the,
yeah.
Yeah. So they're required to put one permanent pressure-treated post with a wetland marker, and then wetland markers every 30 feet along the existing fence bordering the BBW. So
Do they need a deadline?
30 days, right?
it wasn't a deadline.
There wasn't a deadline.
But-
Let's give them one.
But I think it was in the minutes that we would follow up.
They could do it in 30 days. Let's give them 60 days to get it done.
Really?
August 1st? That's 30
60
days.
days,
August 1st.
that's 2 months.
It's a month and a half. It's a month and a half. August 1st, it's a month and a half.
No, 60 days is 2 months.
Oh, yeah, it would be, yeah, if we go 60. I'm just picking a round date, by August 1st.
All right, August 1st.
August
You guys
1st?
are all displaying your math skills here.
I
It's
know.
pretty
He
impressive.
said that.
Oh,
I said, there's 2 months, and he went, no, that was first.
a lot of math skills.
That was, yes.
No, what I'm saying is let's go for a state cert instead of days. I can do the math.
You are an
Do
engineer,
you
right?
need a motion for that?
Even after-
Yeah, motion, we need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's unanimous. Next one is 242, 1720, 33 Regency Place.
All right. Get this.
Who's the first one?
I already saw that.
Okay. You're back.
Norse Environmental. Here with me tonight is Chris Maroon and his wife Jody. They are owners of the property. The commission may recall this project. This is at Regency Place. We came in for a filing to install an in-ground pool. Then that filing was modified to include a retaining wall to extend the backyard area. Everything was going well. The retaining wall was installed correctly. We submitted the as-built to the town. I requested to reduce the inspections to rain events because essentially the only thing left to do was to either sod or, seed the backyard area. When I was out doing the inspections for Regency, half basketball court was installed within the buffer zone, greater than 50 feet from the wetland, but it was not permitted. So I promptly notified the commission, tried to call Ben. It was the Friday before Memorial Day, so of course I didn't get an answer. But I emailed him the following Tuesday to notify him of the violation. And the commission requested the homeowners attend the meeting tonight, so they are here and present.
Joe?
I mean, they were working on their property with the current and existing order of conditions. So there's no question of what the permit allowed and didn't allow. It's not like an inadvertent mishap. So it really comes right down to it was a violation of the permit for sure. There's no doubt about that. And the bigger question then becomes, so if it were part of the NOI filing, would we have allowed it to begin with, I suppose? And what you've just described, assuming it's accurate, and I have no reason to believe it's not, it's outside the 50. It's relatively flat, and as long as the area is protected, and I don't know if it is, but as long as it's protected with erosion controls and there's no migration of soils, towards the resource area, then we probably would have permitted it. So I think you're lucky. I mean, it's a violation, but you're lucky. I think the violation speaks for itself. I mean, there's usually a fine associated with that, but I don't think we'd say take it out. I think it's an after-the-fact filing, at least potential for an after-the-fact filing, but, But I don't know where the line is. I'm looking at 1.5 photographs, and the one with the trees looks wonderful.
I have the plan
Yeah.
that does not show the sports court, but it shows the 50-foot and the wall.
Okay.
This wall we started at 4 feet and went to 8.
No, it was
the
always
other one?
designed as a lodge. So here's the 50-foot.
So it's within the proposed disturbed area to begin with.
Correct.
So we probably would have approved it if we had known about it. So, again, violation in fact, but not catastrophic, in my opinion.
So think of it procedurally. If it's an approval, if it's approvable, but it was done out of sync, would it be a modification to the order of conditions? Or is it a complete after-the-fact filing? Which would it be? If they have an order of conditions that's valid and current, not expired, construction's taken place, and then they do something that's outside of the permit, the language of the permit, is it an after-the-fact modification, amendment, or filing? Which is it? And then once we know what to call it, and that's the trick with this whole thing, is the paperwork. That's the devil's in the details. So
it could be either one.
If you're comfortable with the, where it is, I would consider it an after-the-fact modification because the COC is still open.
Yeah,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I would say the same thing.
So under the
Pretty egregious, but again, I'm going to say lucky.
Well,
yeah.
Because
Lucky,
I
but-
think it's the easy way out.
But what would, so then that begs the question, if it's an after-the-fact modification, if they had filed for a modification, what would we have charged them? If it's after-the-fact, usually it's triple.
Modification is 200.
Pardon me?
Modification is 200.
Yeah.
After the fact, it's 6.
So after-the-fact would be 6.
Is it?
That's
3
right.
times?
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
So that's our opinion up this end, anyway.
Yeah. I would agree with you, and I
How
would
much
ask-
cheaper than refiling?
And I would ask the commission if, obviously, we need it detail on the plan, so we need a revised plan.
You need revised drawings.
Would the commission require any kind of perimeter stormwater runoff collection, like a trench or anything like that for that new impervious?
It's a good question.
Actually, it's the same exact point we raised over on Best Way for the pool and the driveway extension. Percentage-wise, it's more than doubling the impervious area on the lot. So yeah, there needs to be some consideration. No analysis, but they need to collect the water to a drip edge and an infiltrating system to get it into the ground, you know, in a controlled fashion.
So that would have to be brought on the revised drawing, how you're going to get it.
Well, when I noticed the violation, I had suggested to my client to get on the schedule for the surveyors because I knew you would want a revised plan. So I believe we're on the schedule for the surveyors. It's clearly a violation. My client made the disconnect with the wall. He had thought the wall was at the 100-foot buffer and not this. Just,
Unintentional.
That's all right.
But
As you
we're
can
here
see,
to-
we're trying to make it work for you, so.
I understand.
We're doing everything we can to make it work, stay consistent with what we do,
I appreciate that.
so.
Also, in the future, when you want to do something, she's a phone call away. It's either asked and to, because like Joe said, you were very lucky that wasn't in the 50, because we, I'll tell you to move it.
For once in my life, I got lucky.
So we'll,
You got lucky and it still cost you
I was
money.
just going to say that, you know, someone's sitting behind you.
we're going to help you through it.
Good recovery.
Thank you, guys.
Hold on, let us finish it up here, so we can clean it up.
Questions? Doug? All right.
So we agree it's an after-the-fact modification, triple fees, and
Modified plan.
new plans and how you're going to address the runoff.
Okay.
And is 2 weeks enough time, or do you need more?
Does the after-the-fact modification need to be advertised and notified? No.
No.
If I can get it in 2 weeks, I will.
You want to be on and you can always,
Yeah, I'm
that's
just
still
not sure what the
continuous.
surveyor's schedule is, so
why don't we put you on for 2 weeks, and if you can't make it, you can always just,
I'll talk to Amy.
yeah, we can bump you.
Okay.
All right.
So, just so you understand, still no work for that unpermitted part. Just leave it be until we get a plan in place that's approved.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
So moved.
Second.
All
No.
those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Done deal.
And last but not least is,
I'm sorry, can I ask one quick question? Homeowner wants to know if they can put grass seed down or sod that area.
So that area was always
Is that gonna
intended to
be-
be loomed and seeded.
Correct.
No-
Yes.
So I would say yes. That's still in,
Stabilize.
still in accordance with the
Okay, I
plan.
just,
And it helps stabilize the area.
Stabilize it, definitely stabilize it.
okay, thank you
Okay.
very much.
We don't want that
Thank you.
soil going anywhere.
Okay.
thank you.
Great, thanks.
All right. All right, so next, the general new old business. 660 Great Pond Road, Rolling Ridge.
Did we continue Osgood Street?
Yep. No, we didn't,
Oh,
yeah.
no, we need to.
We need to vote.
We need to.
Okay.
Because Al might want to say something on it.
Yes.
There's nothing to say.
242-12,
Nothing to say.
242-1692, request to continue.
So
To the
moved.
10th.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
Done.
Sorry.
Nice job,
Now-
nice job.
Now new old business,
The whole business.
Rolling Ridge.
Okay.
You have 60 seconds.
So, all right, so Ben was made aware, I think, are you, Deb, or somebody? You,
Me.
Lou, somebody.
Oh, yep. We talked about it at CPC
Okay.
because we're honing in on the parking lot at Rolling Ridge, but there were other issues.
Okay. So let's start with issue number 1, which was unauthorized tree cutting. Some in the buffer.
Just invited to their anniversary, really.
Huh?
Was this the church property?
Yeah, this-
Yeah.
They invited us.
They were just in
They
here
invited us to their open house.
4 weeks ago, and we got a nice invitation to the,
That's
Yeah.
in September, the end of September.
so they were going to get this all done between now and September, so
That's what they
look
wanted
nice
to
for us.
do, yeah.
look nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's all
I'm with you,
right.
Joe. I'm totally-
So their claim is that the trees that were moved were dead hemlocks, but they went ahead and just stockpiled logs and cut branches, in jurisdiction. This is probably the most egregious pile location. So this needs to be addressed, probably through an enforcement order for removal. So I did do a site visit with Ben, Monica, staff planner, I forget his name, executive director, or
Lawrence Jake.
Reverend, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and his sort of site supervisor guy.
Did you give a cease and desist order?
Ben drafted one.
Okay.
So I wanted to wrap my head around all the issues out there before we went ahead and did that.
Okay.
So that's one issue. The second issue is that we have a section of the existing trail that's pretty steep off the paved right-of-way here that they wanted to try to address right away. So they went ahead and they blazed this trail, which is...
Is that the pond edge immediately to the left?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
It's like in BVW, and it's a muddy mess. So I expressed my displeasure with what I was looking at here and said that this is not the alternative that you should have pursued. You should have...
You're too diplomatic.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
I
so-
think,
That-
stop it right now.
Because these
Yeah.
guys are in front of us, they know us.
Yep.
They're familiar with this commission, they come in for their garden
Yep.
and all their activities. They're very familiar with permitting, it's not like they have no idea.
Right.
This is the kind of stuff that
Right.
not only gets a cease and desist order, it gets a restoration order.
Right.
And
That's right. That's
yeah.
right. So I just wanted you guys to see it.
Yeah, thank you for showing.
Thank you.
And
thank
so,
you.
yes, I agree, restoration of this whole stretch.
Well, I think,
that
look,
Look,
they
the pecking
blazed.
order is cease and desist, all
Yeah.
activity.
Right.
Stabilize whatever disturbance
Yep.
areas
Stabilize.
you've got there, 2. 3, order them to prepare a survey and a restoration plan
Yes.
to restore it to what it was and give them a deadline. And 4, lastly, whatever it is you want to do, file for it. And then all that having a deadline. And,
but they gotta file a plan for
but
a
they need
restoration plan.
to get spanked by us and bring them in.
But the restoration plan, the question that, again, I always fall back on procedure, is the restoration plan an RDA?
No, I don't think so.
Or is it just a,
State-
do everything under the EO?
Keep it
This
under
is
the
in a
EO.
resource area.
But
Yeah.
that's
Keep
what
it
I'm
under the
saying.
EO because I don't think the commission would even have entertained this under an application.
So what?
So forget it.
So keep everything under the EO. This is an
That's right.
outright restoration plan.
Yep.
But they've got to submit, before they start to restore, they've got to submit
Yes.
the plan to us saying, this is what we want to do. It has to be approved by us and you.
Yep.
And again, my
This
tone
is
is,
this
my
is a big
tone is,
disappointment because,
Well, this is
exactly,
what
my tone
happened.
is driven by exactly what you said. These folks have been before
you
us
see them all the
enough.
time. They come in once a
They know
year.
what they're not supposed to
Okay,
do.
but this is a new director,
Yeah.
okay? So what happened was at CPC, we were talking about the parking lot, because we're big into parking lots, and they hadn't been done. So that's what really kind of alerted us. Then the CPC, there were several members that went out to look at the parking lot area, because that needs to be done. So upon further evaluating the land, they went out there and they saw all of these other issues.
Okay. All right, so
That's how you discovered it.
That's how it was
So what I
discovered.
hear is staff change, so there, things can fall through the cracks. But I
Right.
think
That's a
this
big-
new
But they-
staff,
but
this new
they-
staff member needs to learn
But,
fast.
right, but they felt as though it's their land and they wanted to ensure that they could see, the lake and have a
Well,
clear
every
view.
single landowner that comes before us.
So like every,
If this
abutters
was
of the
Brook
lake-
School,
Yeah.
would we let them cut the trees down? If this was the other people who've cut
I
trees
mean,
down?
we didn't even let trustees of reservations make a trail like that on their property around the lake. We made them lift it, pull it back up the hill, and, I mean,
Right.
we didn't even let them do it.
Right.
It's just not,
And that's why.
that's a point source discharge going into the lake
Yeah.
at the
Right.
bottom of the trail.
Right.
That's what that is, and we can't allow that.
You know, and we never prioritize resource areas. A resource area is a resource
yeah.
area, but, my wife and I were this evening having dinner, had a nice glass of ice water I really enjoyed. I even commented about how wonderful our drinking water is. This is our water supply.
No, I know, and I made that point
This can't
clear.
have this
I
happening.
made that very clear.
Just can't be
Okay,
having
so-
this happen.
I mean,
And
so-
also, too, I think we need to educate the public. I know that
This is what I'm trying to
a
do.
North Andover, thank you, Joe. A North Andover citizen came to me, and it was Elsie Pulio, and she had said that, could there be some kind of a note in the next newsletter from the town that anytime anyone wanted to cut trees down, that they come to the Conservation Commission, and Jamie drafted a letter and a notice to that, so that is going to be going in
Very
as
proactive.
well.
It's a great idea. We've actually always used education first. When any of our people have gone around town and discovered violations, they always knock on the door and issue a pamphlet or something and try to educate. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's absolutely, absolutely.
Well, I was called up and talked to about this. They literally put a boat in front of the existing trail so nobody could use it. And the person that went to go see this gentleman said that they wanted to clear cut to the lake, so they, when they had functions that they could look, they took down, a whole row of rhododendrons that Ethan Allen planted.
We just had a similar activity take place at 440 Great Pond Road.
Huh? That Ethan Allen built that.
Yeah. But I mean, we just had
I
a
didn't know that
situation
either.
with, I don't know if they have river birch growing on the shore of this property, but we had a property, this side of it,
Brooks, the other side of Brooks, right?
the other side of Brooks, over towards the narrow Pebbles Beach, and they had literally cut river birch
That one,
in
I
the
know
water.
what you're talking about, I'm sorry.
So this is not an unusual event for us. Everybody that lives on the lake has a vision of creating access.
It's happening.
Yep.
So we just deal with it, but
Okay.
cease and desist is immediate and
Yep.
irrevocable and
Yep.
not open for discussion.
Right.
I drive along 133 all the
Okay,
time.
so,
You look across.
And I'm amazed of how many houses I can see
Bonnie Lane,
and docks.
you go by the causeway and look across, you cannot believe.
Well,
what-
sail away to.
It's
sail-
Exactly.
I mean, we've had a million of them. You could go around the lake and you could find them all.
And-
Yeah,
and-
and regardless of the owner here, I mean, it's the exact same issue. It's, again, enough of
All right,
this,
so we'll-
yeah.
it's late.
So we're
all
gonna
right,
fix it.
so cease and desist, stabilize,
Right,
prepare a restoration plan.
yeah. Do they
Is that-
need to have a wetland scientist or a monitor reporting to us. I'm the guy in the commission that has trust issues. I want someone out there, as one of my favorite presidents used to say, trust but verify. So,
So restoration for the Blaze Trail area and cutting?
what?
Or,
Anything
tree
jurisdictional?
cutting?
No,
Okay.
anything jurisdictional, the answer is no. If they want to do something, they got to come back and file at the very minimum
And
an
anything
IDA.
that's been disturbed within jurisdiction, we want to know about and what they intend to do.
We got-
And then at that point, a dialogue starts.
It's got to be identified so that we can we know on our enforcement
Okay.
order where the planting's taking place.
And also in addition to that, Amy,
Okay.
I think there needs to be a redelineation of where the parking lot.
Okay, yeah, that was my next thing. So, we're not gonna let them do that new trail that they mucked up. This is the steep area that everyone's worried about, that's too steep for people to walk.
So that trail that's mucked up, that's got to be,
That's a
That's gotta be-
separate issue.
yeah.
It's a separate issue.
Yeah.
But what I told them is that this needs to be the access, so you need to figure out how to make it easier for people to walk down the hill.
Well, they're going to have to
And
design
that-
it. They're going to have to
and-
design it.
exactly, and that needs-
And propose it to us.
Right, and that needs to be formally permitted.
Yeah, that's a filing.
Right.
Anything outside of the scope of the EO is a filing.
Okay, so, all right. Do we have, okay, wait a minute. I think I have the plan here.
That was a pretty
All right,
picture
so,
of
the,
fountain, yeah.
so, they want to Well, the CPC wants to get a parking area installed, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
That was in the order of conditions.
okay.
The order of conditions to
Or the-
the other project.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I want to separate the two. I don't want to make it look like quid pro quo.
No.
We get a parking lot for Wigan and I look the other way.
No. The parking lot should have been in there, but they never,
So they have an open order?
They have an open order?
Yes.
They do.
I-
For what?
Well, if we didn't get the,
No, I don't think they do. I don't think they have.
They have
open
a
order.
small project permit for garden.
Gardening, that's all they
I
have. They don't have any
found.
order
no,
for anything, Joe.
they came into
In-
us
no,
for
the
parking lot.
5 or
CP
6 years ago, right?
This
Yes.
is from the
You're right.
CPC when, yeah. we had a-
Didn't they do the driveway change?
Conservation.
You
Yes.
do a new driveway down the,
But they were supposed to.
But the parking
do
lot
the
that we
parking
permitted
lot.
more than 5 years ago hasn't been built?
No,
Well, they have an
No.
expired order.
sorry, not an opening, you're right.
They have
Opened and
an
expired
expired
order,
order. I mean,
So-
they're, you know,
from what I remember.
Yeah,
they're gonna have to refile.
yeah.
They need to be
They're
re-educated.
gonna have to refile and, yeah.
So main entrance driveway and parking lot were part of that order?
Well, there was a permit, we issued a permit for the construction of a parking lot.
Okay.
Alongside the roadway,
Yeah.
the new roadway, they put in the new roadway, never put the parking lot in.
And I
So,
wanna say more than
you
5
mean
years.
their
Well, that
main
was a long time,
Yeah.
long time.
You mean their main entrance?
Yeah.
Is that
Main
what you
entrance,
mean?
They
It
changed
wasn't the
it.
main entrance, it was another access.
Is it
wasn't the main
next to the
entrance.
North Andover Country Club right
Yes,
here?
it was.
Closest,
Yeah.
So this is, yeah, it's sort of
Yeah.
like the broken up old road.
Yeah,
Right.
So
Okay.
that road, my memory is, we issued an order of conditions for construction of a parking lot that was serviced by that road.
yeah.
Okay,
But again, you know,
I didn't know that.
I may
Okay.
remember it and I may not.
All right,
But someone is an expired.
all
I rem-
right, so I need to.
I'm remembering like that to the,
All right, so this plan shows a proposed parking area 57.7 feet from the edge of BVW.
You know, we're gonna have to dig out
All right.
we're gonna have to dig it out and look at it.
Okay.
Because we shouldn't go by memory here, we should dig everything out,
Okay.
see what they proposed.
All right,
And, but I think in addition to the most important thing right now, not only the cease and desist, but they gotta put somebody on, a monitor on board immediately.
okay.
Otherwise, Ben's gonna be out there every day.
no, he's not,
He's gonna be camping out.
which means they're going to be monitored.
No, that's what I'm saying.
And so
Yeah.
the monitor shall monitor how often?
I'll-
Once a week?
Well, we cease and desist and a restoration
And
plan.
oversee the restoration,
Well, once they submit a plan. We don't have a
Right.
restoration plan yet.
right,
So, and we have to
Okay.
also discover where we are with that notice of intent for the parking.
okay. Okay,
So this sounds like it's gonna be a big deal.
Yeah, I think they
Okay.
should
Gonna
come
be a
in.
lot of research.
They should come in.
Let's wait till we get our homework done first. Let's get our homework done administratively first before we, you know.
Before we
Well,
what?
no, you have to
I'll
have
go
some.
No, the EO
No,
has
the
to go on
EO's
immediately.
out.
No, I
Oh, all right.
I'm talking
There's
about-
other things, there's
That's
other,
right.
Lou's talking about inviting them to attend a meeting, and I'm
Well,
saying,
we gotta get the plan.
I wanna see where we are first. Don't you?
Yeah, I do. It's a
do you
mess.
think they can do that within 2 weeks?
Okay.
What do you want?
Well-
Amy, you can do the research.
I can do the research tomorrow.
Okay, so,
And I'll write the enforcement order.
so why don't we have somebody
Tomorrow.
attend? Why don't we have somebody attend the next meeting and we can talk about where we are right
And then
now?
Yeah.
from then,
And
give
from
them an
there, we
idea.
can establish better timelines.
What we're
Timelines,
looking
right.
for.
How's that? Is that right?
Not at the next meeting.
So the next meeting will, they'll have the EO in hand.
What's the date for the next meeting?
July 10th.
July 10th, okay.
So they'll have the EO in hand by that point.
I hope so.
Well, they should have it
No, they'll have it,
tomorrow.
right. I mean, I'll hand
Friday.
deliver it. So,
It's gotta be the first thing.
Yeah. And so their appearance at the July 10th meeting will be for an update
An update.
on their progress of addressing that EO, and then perhaps we can get more fine-tuned with deadlines.
Yeah, it's not gonna
Hope
be,
to establish a clear understanding of our expectations.
but it's
and
not
their
gonna be a
wishes.
bitch fest. It's gonna be,
No, yeah.
you know,
Where you're at, you have the
Yeah.
EO, where are you
Right.
at?
It's not gonna be kumbaya either.
No, it won't be.
I'm not suggesting it is. I'm just saying, I like to keep things on an even keel.
No,
You know how
I
you know,
except when it comes to utilities.
No, I did, listen, I went to therapy, I'm better. That was a joke, that was.
All right, so we all set? Amy, all set? Motion to adjourn?
So,
All those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
all set, Mr. Producer.